Well. It seems like Wall Street is finally starting to smell what KC is cooking. Longtime subscribers of this channel, you guys already know we have been cooking on this story for the past 2 years. Matter of fact, this channel might have been the first to predict the demise of ESPN. I don't remember the exact date. It was sometime during the summer of 2021. I predicted that ESPN would cease to exist by 2030. Now, I don't consider myself to be some kind of expert. I'm not some genius in the world of business. I have no experience analyzing the financials of a major media corporation, but I do happen to have a PhD in common sense and logic. It does not take a genius to figure out that ESPN's business model is not sustainable. I'm not sure why it took Wall Street this long to figure it out. Now, the mainstream media, they are still outright refusing to accept this reality. Either they think ESPN is too big to fail, or they are simply covering for one of the biggest donors to woke United Methodist. Right now, there is no mainstream media outlet that is sinking faster than CNN, but ESPN is a very close second. Every other year, there are mass layoffs at the worldwide leader in woke. Normal people that are working there, they have found life rafts and they are rapidly jumping off ship. Ratings across the board in the pooper. There's a serious lack of star power at the network. ESPN has become so bad at creating new stars, they're having to go out and buy them. They spent millions of dollars on Pat McAfee, a deal that will ultimately end in huge embarrassing failure. They are spending millions to acquire Shannon Sharpe. Hey, it's me, Shay Shay. Stephen A's my new baby. The media, they are hyping up the potential marriage between Stephen A and Shay, and I just don't understand why. This has disaster written all over it. Debate shows are only entertaining when you have two superstar personalities that consistently disagree with each other. Shay and A, they agree on just about everything. Mythical racism, their common fear of addressing transgender involvement in sports, black head coaches in the NFL. They share a love for LeBron James, their affinity for the woke hug, followed by the grilling the woke wiener. Someone please explain to me how this marriage is going to be entertaining. Now, many people will claim that ESPN's dedication to Wiener is the primary reason for their demise. And make no mistake about it, walking down the path of woke righteousness, that has definitely had a detrimental impact on ESPN. But even if ESPN was not dedicated to the filth, even if they were still claiming to be the worldwide leader in sports instead of the worldwide leader in woke, none of that would change the fact that this business model is unsustainable. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. ESPN's got a problem that I don't think has a solution. They're in the worst position that a business can be in. Just think about it like this. Back in the 90s, internet service providers were big business. These companies were making billions of dollars. AOL, Mindspring, Prodigy, CompuServe. Welcome to CompuServe. ISPs, they were basically middlemen. You dialed into their servers through your phone line and they gave you access to the internet. Outside of AOL, I would imagine that most of my younger viewers never heard of these other companies before. Why? What happened to them? Broadband. Once broadband was introduced, there was no longer a need in the market for the middleman, the ISPs, and that is exactly where ESPN finds themselves today. The reason ESPN is struggling, they no longer feel a need in the market. Rich Greenfield is a managing partner at Lightshed Partners. Now, the company is a media research firm based in New York City. Thursday, Rich Greenfield, he published an article outlining the future of ESPN. Now, according to Rich Greenfield, there are two paths available for the future of ESPN: grim and grimmer. Option one, ESPN can remain with the status quo. They can continue to pay exorbitant fees to the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL. They can continue to pay pennies on the peso for the rights to broadcast footage from the WNBA dump. Basically, ESPN can keep the model that's made them the biggest network in sports media and one of the biggest media companies in the world. The problem with that scenario ESPN can't afford to keep that model. Right now, the only thing keeping this network afloat is the NBA. Casey, what about the NFL? What about the SEC? ESPN has college basketball. They have the fake March Madness, damn it. ESPN has the NFL one night a week, 4 months of the year. College basketball is not a draw. The only draw in college basketball is the real March Madness, and that belongs to Turner and CBS. The fake March Madness with the women, that was a huge draw this year, but that only carries the network for a couple of weeks. During the regular season, women's college basketball doesn't attract Shay Shay to the Butt Bongo Festival. Not to mention the fact ESPN caught lightning in a bottle last year. Once star players like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese move on to the WNBA, where they will go from being superstars to anonymous dump divers, once that happens, ratings for the women's tournament will go back to their averages, which is shit. And with the NCAA increasing the fees, ESPN's going to be paying a lot more money for that turd. Without the NBA, ESPN would rapidly decline, and I've got a strong feeling that ESPN is going to lose the NBA, which leads us to option 2 from Rich Greenfield. Option 2 for ESPN: scale back on carrying major sports like the NFL, the NBA, and you become completely irrelevant. Now, there is one positive with this model. ESPN would save billions of dollars and they would have plenty of available cash. Problem is, there would be no reason to watch the network. If ESPN scales back, if they lose major leagues like the NBA, Major League Baseball, the NHL, 90% of their current audience would have no reason to watch the network. But KC, they have compelling debate shows like First Take. They've got PTI. They have fantastic documentaries. None of that is enough to carry the network. First Take is dead as soon as Stephen A Smith leaves ESPN, and that is going to happen. Producing great documentaries, that does not differentiate ESPN from their competitors. Over the last 12 to 18 months, who has been responsible for producing sports documentaries that have captured the attention of the mainstream? It's not ESPN, it's Netflix. People are relying on YouTube personalities for sports debates. ESPN is no longer needed for breaking news. Just think about it. When something major happens in the NBA, free agency, draft news, trades, where do you find out about it? Are you waiting for the latest edition of SportsCenter? Are you watching the insufferable Malika Andrews on NBA Today? Or are you finding out instantly on Twitter? Both of these scenarios outlined by Rich Greenfield, they are the same exact scenarios that we have outlined here on the channel for the past 2 years, and both options lead to the demise of ESPN. The only difference, option 2 is a rapid decline, while option 1 is a slow demise towards bankruptcy. That's okay. That's okay. Executives at ESPN, they have come up with a brilliant strategy to save the network. First, they launched their own sportsbook through Penn Entertainment, which is a direct contradiction to the supposed family values at Disney. Back in 2019, Disney CEO Bob Iger, he said that he couldn't see ESPN getting involved in gambling. Now, of course, ESPN operating a sportsbook, it makes sense now, since Disney no longer represents true family values. But what does this tell you? To me, it shows that ESPN is desperate. Step 2 of this brilliant plan. ESPN is interested in securing the broadcast rights of the WWE. Now, it is being reported that ESPN's interested in broadcasting the weekly SmackDown show that currently airs on Fox on Friday night. Now, I will give ESPN credit. This is actually a good idea. The WWE is a big ratings draw. Friday night, usually the worst night on television. WWE, they average around 2.5 million viewers every week on Fox. Now, this would give ESPN consistent weekly programming throughout the year. There's no off-season in the WWE. This would guarantee the network big ratings 52 nights every year. If they could secure the pay-per-view rights, it would also give them a big draw for their streaming service ESPN Plus. And securing the broadcast rights for WWE, it's a hell of a lot cheaper than keeping the NBA. The NBA would cost I think it's 5 to 7 billion a year. WWE around 300 million. This would be a win-win for ESPN, right? The WWE draws higher ratings, their programming is cheaper to secure, and it's cheaper to produce. ESPN wouldn't be responsible for any production cost. WWE, they provide their own announcers, they handle everything with production. All ESPN would be providing is the platform. Now, this is pure speculation on my part, but I think ESPN is looking into WWE as a possible replacement for the NBA. I think executives at ESPN are realizing that it's just no longer profitable to keep the NBA. Now, is the WWE enough to keep ESPN afloat? Absolutely not. One of the good things about the NBA, it gives you an endless supply of content. Outside of August and maybe September, the NBA carries ESPN throughout the year. The WWE can't do that. Are you really going to watch a debate show about a fake sporting event? Are you going to have WWE analysts analyzing the action in the ring? Are you going to have Stephen A and Shay debate the card at WrestleMania? Are you going to watch that? The biggest problem with the WWE, it's a very, very niche audience. It doesn't appeal to the mainstream. Yes, they draw bigger ratings than the NBA, but in terms of national attention and mainstream interest, mainstream appeal, the WWE's not even close to the NBA. And when it comes to advertising, the rates you can charge for WWE programming are exponentially lower when compared to the NBA. Getting into the business of gambling, a network supposedly dedicated to sports, desperately trying to secure the broadcast rights for a fake sport. These are all signs that ESPN is desperate. They are trying to find a need in the market to fill, when the truth is, there is no longer a need for ESPN. There is not enough demand for a 24-hour sports network, at least not on linear television. If the demand existed, both ESPN and FS1, they would be booming. I think we are going to continue to see people jump ship. When a network is struggling, people with options, they have a tendency to start looking elsewhere. And I'm going to stand by my prediction that Stephen A Smith is absolutely leaving ESPN. I think that's why they were so desperate to sign Pat McAfee. I think that's why they're going after Colin Cowherd. They are trying to fill the void that will be left by Stephen A Smith, but no one can fill that void. There is no replacing a star of that magnitude. The NBA's never been able to replace Michael Jordan. Took WWE years to find a replacement for Hulk Hogan, and they actually lucked up and found two, Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. But once those guys retired, the WWE was never able to replace them. It's been 20 years. Like I said in the beginning, there is no solution to this problem for ESPN, but maybe you see something that I don't. I now have a Wall Street analyst predicting the same demise of ESPN that we have been predicting for the last 2 years. Maybe you've got the solution. You tell me, how can ESPN be saved? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.